There are secrets buried deep in the sands of time, secrets too powerful, too dangerous, or perhaps too extraordinary for us to comprehend. What if the world we know is only a fragment of a far greater story, hidden in lost libraries, forgotten maps, and ancient monuments? Tonight, we journey into the shadows of history, where truth and myth blur, and every answer sparks 1,000 new questions. Are you ready to uncover the mysteries humanity was never meant to know? Secret 1. There is something haunting about the silence of history. Some truths vanish, not because they were never known, but because they were once known too well. The Library of Alexandria is not just a place that lived and died. It is a symbol of how fragile human knowledge truly is. Imagine it now, not as a ruin, but in its prime. Marble columns rising high into the Mediterranean sky, scrolls upon scrolls nestled safely in dim, fragrant halls. Candlelight flickers across shelves, the air warm with the scent of papyrus and ink. This was the greatest repository of human thought, a collection so vast it may have held every secret the ancient world had uncovered. Some say it even contained ideas that could have propelled humanity forward by centuries, ideas lost forever to fire and neglect. The story begins in Egypt, in a time when empires traded not just spices and silks, but also knowledge. Ptolemy II, successor to Alexander the Great, envisioned a place where all of human wisdom could be gathered and preserved. Scholars from Greece, India, Mesopotamia, and beyond were summoned to contribute. Any ship that docked at Alexandria's port was searched, and if scrolls were found, copies were made. Sometimes the originals were kept and copies returned. It was ambitious, audacious even, but for a moment in history, it seemed humanity might capture every spark of enlightenment and hold it in a single place. What did those halls contain? No one truly knows. Legend whispers of ancient blueprints for flying machines, medical cures that could have ended plagues, and maps of lands yet undiscovered. Some say texts from lost civilizations were hidden there. Atlantis, perhaps, if you believe such stories. Others claim mathematical formulas and astronomical models that anticipated modern science by millennia were once scrawled in those scrolls. If these accounts are even partly true, the loss becomes almost unbearable to contemplate. Humanity might have leapt forward into an age of light, long before the darkness of the medieval centuries ever came. But knowledge, like a flame, is fragile. The fire that consumed the library is as much a mystery as its contents. Some blame Julius Caesar, whose siege of Alexandria in 48 BC he allegedly sparked the blaze. Others say later attacks by Aurelian, by Theophilus, by invading Arabs were to blame. Perhaps it wasn't one fire at all, but many, each one erasing a little more until nothing remained but ash and memory. There is even the possibility that no grand destruction ever happened, that instead, over centuries, the library fell into neglect, its scrolls sold, stolen, or allowed to rot. That quiet ending is, somehow, even sadder. Think for a moment of what it means to lose a single book. Now multiply that by hundreds of thousands. There were scrolls on medicine, charting cures and treatments forgotten for centuries. Scrolls on engineering, describing devices that would not be rediscovered until the Renaissance. Scrolls on philosophy, theology, and science that could have transformed the very way we see the universe. Even today, fragments of those ideas resurface, copied or quoted in other works, like echoes of a lost voice. But the whole song, the complete symphony, is gone. What would our world look like if the library had survived? Would we have colonized Mars centuries ago? Would diseases like cancer or smallpox have been conquered in antiquity? Would we have avoided wars born of ignorance, of fear, of misunderstanding? Or perhaps, as some philosophers suggest, humanity wasn't ready for such power. Maybe the loss of the library was, in some strange way, necessary. Perhaps knowledge, like fruit, must ripen in its own time or else become poison. The Library of Alexandria is more than a tragedy. It is a warning. It shows how delicate our progress is, how easily all we know can be scattered by fire or apathy. In a sense, every library is Alexandria. Every hard drive, every server, every collection of thought and creativity is just as vulnerable. And so we must ask ourselves, what truths today might future generations mourn if we let them slip away? As you drift deeper into thought, picture the library not as a ruin, but as it was meant to be. Feel the cool marble underfoot. Hear the hushed whispers of scholars debating the mysteries of the cosmos. Smell the ink, the oil lamps, the sea breeze drifting through open windows. Somewhere in that labyrinth of knowledge lies a scroll, a single piece of wisdom that could have changed everything. And yet, we will never read it. Perhaps the greatest secret of the Library of Alexandria is not what it held, but what it still holds even now: the power to remind us that ignorance is not always the absence of knowledge. Sometimes, ignorance is what remains after knowledge is burned, scattered, and forgotten. So as you close your eyes and let your mind wander through the endless corridors of that lost sanctuary, remember, the most powerful secrets are not always hidden. They are lost. And finding them again is the challenge of every generation. Secret 2. There is something haunting about maps. They are more than ink and parchment. They are a record of how humanity once understood its place in the vastness of the world. Yet some ancient maps tell stories that no longer fit within our understanding of geography. They whisper of coastlines that seem unfamiliar, of islands now swallowed by oceans, of entire continents that modern science insists were never there. And so we are left to wonder, are these maps mistakes, the fanciful creations of early cartographers? Or are they remnants of a forgotten age, clues to lands that once existed and have since been erased? Consider the Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral using even older source material. At first glance, it seems ordinary, a chart of the known world. But look closer, and you see something astonishing, a depiction of South America's eastern coast with startling accuracy, at a time when European explorers were only beginning to map those shores. Stranger still, the map seems to show the northern edge of Antarctica, free of ice. Modern scientists will tell you Antarctica has been covered in ice for millions of years. Yet here it appears, its mountain ranges sketched with a precision that defies explanation. Then there is the Orens-Fine map of 1531, another mysterious artifact. It portrays the southern hemisphere dominated by a vast landmass labeled Terra Australis Incognita, the unknown southern land. Early explorers believed such a continent must exist to balance the known lands in the north. Today, we know that Australia and Antarctica occupy these regions, but the size, shape, and placement on these old maps don't match our reality. Did the cartographers simply guess? Or were they working from charts copied and recopied over centuries? From civilizations that glimpsed a world now lost to us? Some of the most tantalizing clues come from even older sources. Legends from cultures around the globe speak of lands that no longer appear on any modern map. The Greeks told of Atlantis, a vast island beyond the Pillars of Hercules, said to have sunk beneath the waves in a single day and night. Hindu texts describe Kumari Kandam, a continent that once bridged India and Madagascar, now consumed by the Indian Ocean. Native American and Polynesian stories speak of islands swallowed by rising seas, their people scattered to distant shores. Geologists will remind us that the Earth's surface is not fixed. Continents drift, collide, and break apart over unfathomable spans of time. Seas rise and fall. Land bridges appear and disappear. Is it so hard to imagine that some of these maps are echoes of real places, sketched by human hands in some forgotten chapter of our past? But there is another possibility, more unsettling still. What if the Earth itself has secrets, cycles of destruction and renewal that periodically wipe the slate clean. Some scientists theorize about pole shifts, events where the planet's crust moves suddenly, displacing continents and triggering cataclysms. Others speak of massive tsunamis, meteor impacts, and volcanic eruptions powerful enough to sink entire regions beneath the oceans. If such events occurred within the span of human memory, the survivors might have drawn maps of the world as it was before, and passed them down in whispers and scrolls. And yet, we cannot ignore the chance that these maps are not of our world at all. Some theorists suggest they might depict parallel Earths, glimpsed in visions or dreams. Or perhaps they are relics from advanced civilizations long before our own, civilizations whose very existence has been erased by time. Could it be that humanity has risen and fallen more than once, each cycle leaving faint fingerprints on ancient parchment? As you imagine these maps, picture the trembling hand of a monk copying lines from a faded scroll, lines that no longer make sense in his world. Picture a sailor gazing at his chart, wondering why the island drawn before him is nowhere to be found. Feel the weight of mystery pressing down, the sense that our planet is not as familiar as we would like to believe. If these maps are true, what else might we have forgotten? Could there be cities sleeping beneath the waves, libraries of knowledge sealed in underwater vaults, or even entire cultures entombed in the depths? The ocean covers 70% of the Earth's surface, and we have explored only a fraction of it. What secrets lie in the darkness below? Perhaps that is the greatest lesson these maps teach us, that the world is not static, and neither is our understanding of it. What we take for granted as truth today may be proven false tomorrow. And maybe, just maybe, the land we stand on now is only temporary, a fleeting moment in the Earth's endless dance of creation and destruction. As you close your eyes, imagine tracing your finger across one of these ancient maps. Feel the ridges of the ink, the roughness of the parchment. You follow a coastline that leads to nowhere, an island that no longer exists. You are not lost. You are standing at the edge of the known world, gazing into the mystery beyond. And in that mystery, you sense a truth humanity was never meant to know. Secret 3. The Great Sphinx of Giza sits in silence, staring endlessly across the sands of Egypt. It has watched millennia pass, pharaohs rising and falling, empires growing and crumbling, the desert swallowing once great cities. To most, the Sphinx is a monument carved from limestone, a guardian of the pyramids, an icon of ancient Egypt's grandeur. But to others, it is something more. For deep beneath its massive paws, there may lie hidden chambers, sealed rooms that could hold forgotten histories, forbidden knowledge, and perhaps secrets humanity was never meant to find. For centuries, the Sphinx has stirred the human imagination. Its weathered face gazes eastward, as if waiting for some moment yet to come. Ancient Greek historians wrote of it in awe, calling it a wonder of the world. But they, like us, could only guess at its true purpose. Was it a symbol of power? A temple to forgotten gods? Or something older and stranger, built by hands we no longer remember? The possibility of hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx first gained widespread attention in the 20th century. Explorers and archaeologists noticed fissures and anomalies in the bedrock around its base. In the 1990s, researchers used ground-penetrating radar and seismic surveys to scan beneath the monument. To their astonishment, they detected voids, large rectangular cavities beneath the Sphinx's paws and along its sides. Were these natural formations, as skeptics claim? Or were they man-made chambers deliberately sealed thousands of years ago? The legends surrounding these hidden spaces are as captivating as the Sphinx itself. Ancient Egyptian texts speak of a hall of records, a secret library said to preserve the wisdom of a lost civilization. Some believe this hall contains scrolls, tablets, or artifacts that reveal the true origins of humanity. If such a place exists, it could rewrite history, challenging everything we think we know about our species, our planet, and even our place in the cosmos. There are whispers of an even older story, one that suggests the Sphinx predates ancient Egypt entirely. According to this theory, the Sphinx is not 4,500 years old, as conventional archaeology insists, but perhaps 10,000 years old or older. Proponents point to weathering patterns on its body, which resemble erosion caused by heavy rains. But Egypt has been a desert for thousands of years. If water carved those marks, it would mean the Sphinx was built during a time when lush savannas covered the land. By whom? And why? What might be found in those chambers, if they exist? Could there be relics from a forgotten epoch, tools and artifacts left by a civilization advanced far beyond what we imagine? Or could they contain records of cataclysms, warnings inscribed by survivors of a previous age? Perhaps these rooms are tombs, holding the remains of rulers whose names were erased from memory. Or perhaps they are empty, their contents long since taken, or never placed at all. The Egyptian government has been cautious about excavating beneath the Sphinx. Some believe this is out of respect for cultural heritage, while others suspect there are secrets being kept from the public. A handful of researchers and explorers claim they were denied access to dig further, fueling speculation of hidden discoveries. Could it be that something has already been found and quietly concealed? But why hide the truth? Perhaps the answer lies in the nature of the secrets themselves. Imagine unearthing evidence of a civilization so advanced it defies explanation, a culture with technologies rivaling our own, yet existing thousands of years before recorded history. Or imagine discovering texts that tell a story very different from the one humanity has accepted, a story of origins that challenges religion, science, and every institution built upon them. Could the world even handle such knowledge? As you picture the Sphinx in your mind, imagine the air beneath its paws, stale and still, untouched for millennia. Picture narrow tunnels leading to vaulted rooms, dust motes dancing in torchlight, the walls lined with carvings of unknown gods and strange symbols. In the center, a stone table, upon which rests a single artifact, a relic so powerful, so transformative, it could change the course of human history forever. Or perhaps the chambers contain nothing at all. Perhaps the greatest mystery of the Sphinx is not what lies beneath it, but why we are compelled to look. Maybe the Sphinx was built as a riddle, a challenge to our curiosity, daring us to search for answers, even if they are not meant to be found. The great Sphinx has kept its secrets for thousands of years. And as you drift deeper into thought, you may realize something unsettling. Perhaps it is not the chambers that are waiting to be discovered. Perhaps they are waiting for us to be ready. Secret 4. There are some books in the world that feel alive, not because they move or speak, but because they hold a presence, a mystery so deep that simply turning their pages stirs something in your soul. The Voynich manuscript is such a book. Its delicate parchment pages are filled with swirling, alien script and strange, otherworldly illustrations. For centuries, it has sat in silence, waiting for someone to understand it, yet no one has. Its language is unlike any ever recorded. Its meaning, if it has one, is locked away behind a code no living person can break, and so it remains unreadable. Imagine finding such a book in your hands. You open it carefully, the pages crackling softly as they turn. The text flows from left to right, its characters looping and curling like vines, utterly unfamiliar yet strangely purposeful. Between the lines are illustrations, plants that do not exist on Earth, women bathing in green pools connected by elaborate plumbing systems, celestial diagrams hinting at some forgotten cosmology. Each page feels like a puzzle, as if the book is whispering in a language just beyond the edge of your comprehension. The Voynich manuscript first came to light in 1912, when a rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich purchased it from a Jesuit library in Italy. But the manuscript itself is much older. Radiocarbon dating places the parchment in the early 1400s. No one knows who wrote it, where it came from, or why it was created. Some believe it is the work of a medieval alchemist recording secret knowledge. Others suggest it was penned by a mystic attempting to capture visions from another world. And then there are those who claim it is nothing more than an elaborate hoax, a meaningless jumble of symbols designed to confound. But if it is a hoax, it is one of remarkable consistency. Modern linguists have analyzed the text's structure and found patterns that mimic real languages. The distribution of words, the repetition of certain symbols, the way sentences seem to flow, these are not the random scrawls of a trickster. They suggest an internal logic, a grammar waiting to be deciphered. Yet every attempt to translate it has failed. Cryptographers who once broke Nazi Enigma codes have tried and given up. Linguists fluent in dozens of languages have pored over its pages in vain. Even artificial intelligence, trained on vast databases of human writing, has been unable to make sense of its script. It is as if the manuscript was written in the language of dreams, or perhaps by a mind not entirely human. What could it contain? Some believe it is a pharmacopoeia, a medieval guide to plants and their medicinal uses. Others see in its pages a work of science fiction, a description of alien worlds and life forms. More esoteric thinkers suggest it is a grimoire, a magical text filled with spells and rituals known only to its author. Or perhaps it is something more mundane, a personal journal or a code designed to protect family secrets. But there is another possibility, more unsettling than the rest, that the Voynich manuscript was never meant to be understood. What if it was written by a solitary scribe lost in madness, the language emerging from a mind consumed by visions? Or what if it was created not for human eyes at all, but as a message to beings we cannot comprehend? And yet, there are moments when the manuscript feels almost familiar. Some of its drawings resemble stars and constellations we know. Others suggest herbal remedies, the kind used by healers for centuries. It is as if the book hovers between sense and nonsense, inviting us to search, but refusing to yield its truth. Imagine the day its meaning is finally uncovered. What might we find? Perhaps instructions for building impossible machines. Perhaps a record of a civilization long forgotten, or warnings of disasters yet to come. Or perhaps the manuscript's secret is far simpler, a story of love or loss, its words rendered incomprehensible by the passage of time. As you drift deeper into thought, picture the author at work. A lone figure hunched over a desk, quill scratching across parchment, the ink still wet and glistening in candlelight. What drove them to create such a work? Were they preserving sacred knowledge? Or were they writing for themselves, never imagining that centuries later, others would obsess over their words? The Voynich manuscript sits in a glass case today, locked safely in the Beinecke Rare Book Library at Yale University. Visitors come from around the world to glimpse its pages, to stand in the presence of a mystery no one can solve. And as they gaze upon it, they feel the weight of unknowing, the realization that some secrets may never be revealed. Perhaps that is the manuscript's true purpose, not to be read, but to remind us of the limits of human understanding, to teach us humility in the face of the unknown. For in every unreadable word, in every incomprehensible drawing, the book seems to whisper, not everything is meant for you. And as you close your eyes, imagine yourself holding the Voynich manuscript. You trace the delicate ink with your fingers, feeling the faint ridges left by a long dead hand. The words are silent, but you sense them watching, waiting for the day someone finally understands, or for the day humanity accepts that some knowledge was never meant to be ours. Secret 5. Pyramids are monuments of stone and silence, rising from the earth like frozen thoughts of a civilization reaching toward the heavens. Most people know the pyramids of Egypt, and perhaps the step temples of Mesoamerica, but these are only fragments of a larger story. Across the world, there are pyramids that defy explanation, structures so ancient they predate all known records of human writing, their creators lost in the shadows of time. who built them? Why? And how did their knowledge vanish so completely that even their names are forgotten? In the heart of Indonesia, the mountain of Gunung Padang looms over the surrounding countryside. For years, locals believed it was nothing more than a natural hill. But as explorers climbed its slopes, they discovered layers of terraces, stone blocks arranged in strange geometries, and a network of chambers beneath the surface. When scientists began carbon dating samples from its depths, they were stunned. The oldest layers may be more than 20,000 years old, built long before any known civilization. If true, this would rewrite the history of humanity. But who, in the deep past, had the skill to construct such a monument? Then there is the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, a massive triangular hill near the town of Visoko. Geologist Samir Osmanagic claims it is the largest and oldest pyramid in the world, covered over millennia by layers of soil and vegetation. Underground tunnels, strange stone formations, and alignments with celestial events all hint at design rather than chance. Yet mainstream archaeologists remain skeptical, insisting the formation is natural. Still, those who have walked its tunnels speak of an energy in the air, a sense of purpose embedded in the stones themselves. Even in Egypt, the birthplace of the most famous pyramids, mysteries linger. The Great Pyramid of Giza is said to have been built around 4,500 years ago. Yet some researchers argue its construction methods remain beyond the capabilities of any ancient society we know. Gigantic limestone blocks, some weighing over 80 tons, were fitted together with a precision that defies belief. The pyramid is aligned almost perfectly to true north, and its proportions encode mathematical constants like pi and the golden ratio. Were the Egyptians alone responsible, or were they building atop something far older, left behind by a civilization erased from memory? And what of the pyramids beneath the ocean? Off the coast of Yonaguni, Japan, divers have found what appears to be a massive stepped structure submerged in the sea. Sharp angles, straight lines, and stone terraces suggest the work of human hands. But the site lies beneath 100 feet of water. If these are ruins, they would have been built during the last ice age, when sea levels were lower. That would make them more than 10,000 years old, older than any known city. Across continents and oceans, the pyramid appears again and again. In China's Shaanxi province, giant earthen pyramids lie hidden under layers of grass and farmland. In Sudan, the Nubian pyramids stand as silent sentinels, their origins partially known, but still cloaked in enigma. In South America, the pyramids of Caral rise from the desert, their age challenging the timeline of Peruvian civilization. Why did ancient peoples from so many distant lands build pyramids? Was it coincidence, or were they following a shared blueprint from a forgotten age? Some believe these monuments were more than tombs or temples. They suggest the pyramids were energy generators, celestial markers, or even messages meant for future civilizations. Others whisper of an even stranger possibility, that humanity has lived through multiple cycles of rise and fall, with each great culture leaving behind only a few indestructible clues for those who would come after. If the builders of these ancient pyramids were not our ancestors, then who were they? Were they an advanced human civilization wiped out by a cataclysm? Or were they something else, visitors from beyond the stars, as some theorists have proposed? Could the pyramids have been landing markers, beacons to guide them back home? The truth is buried, both in stone and in time. Modern archaeologists are cautious, hesitant to embrace theories that stray from the accepted timeline of history. But still, the evidence accumulates, structures too old, too precise, too complex to fit neatly into the story we've been told. As you picture these pyramids in your mind, imagine standing at their base, gazing upward as their immense forms cut into the sky. Feel the chill of ancient stone under your fingers, the hum of mystery vibrating through the air. Somewhere deep within the stones, perhaps in hidden chambers no one has yet uncovered, lie answers to questions we are only beginning to ask. And yet, perhaps these answers were never meant for us. Perhaps the pyramids were built not to be understood, but to endure, to stand as a silent witness to the fragility of human memory. As you close your eyes, let your mind drift across deserts and jungles, across oceans and mountains. See the pyramids rising from the earth, unchanging as centuries pass. They do not speak, but if they could, perhaps they would say, "We were here before you, and we will remain after you are gone." Secret 6. When we gaze at the night sky, we often imagine ourselves as explorers peering into the unknown, mapping the cosmos for the very first time. But what if we are not the first? What if long before telescopes, satellites, and modern astronomy, ancient civilizations already understood secrets of the stars, secrets they could not have learned with the naked eye? Across cultures and continents, there are stories, carvings, and texts describing star systems and cosmic phenomena that modern science has only recently confirmed. How could they have known? Consider the Dogon people of Mali, West Africa. For generations, they have passed down intricate knowledge of the Sirius star system, knowledge that should have been impossible without advanced instruments. According to Dogon oral tradition, Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, is accompanied by a smaller, invisible companion star they call Potolo. They describe Potolo as incredibly heavy, dense, and orbiting Sirius every 50 years. In the 19th century, Western astronomers knew nothing of such a star. But in 1970, scientists confirmed the existence of Sirius B, a faint white dwarf star invisible to the naked eye, orbiting Sirius exactly as the Dogon described. The Dogon also speak of a third star, Sirius C, which some modern astronomers believe may exist, but has yet to be definitively proven. How could a preliterate society in West Africa possess this knowledge centuries, perhaps millennia, before telescopes revealed it? Skeptics argue they may have learned it from European visitors, but the Dogon insist these teachings are far older, passed down from ancestors who were taught by beings from the sky. In ancient Mesopotamia, the Sumerians carved tablets describing celestial bodies with astonishing precision. One such tablet, the Mol Apin, catalogues star positions, planetary motions, and even the precession of the equinoxes, a phenomenon modern science only confirmed in the last few centuries. Even stranger is their depiction of the solar system. The Sumerians seem to know of all the planets, including Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which are invisible to the naked eye. They described them orbiting the sun in the correct sequence, long before modern astronomy charted these distant worlds. The ancient Hindus, too, recorded profound astronomical insights in the Vedas. Texts like the Surya Siddhanta, dating back thousands of years, describe the Earth's diameter, the distance to the moon, and the orbit of planets with remarkable accuracy. The precision of their calculations rivals, and in some cases, anticipates modern measurements. How could such knowledge emerge without advanced tools? Even more mysterious are the carvings and artifacts that hinted knowledge of entire star systems. In Egypt's Temple of Hathor at Dendra, a relief known as the Dendra Zodiac depicts constellations and planets, arranged in a way that seems to encode advanced astronomical understanding. Scholars debate its meaning. Is it a symbolic map of the heavens, or something more literal, evidence of a lost science? What if these ancient civilizations weren't guessing? What if they were remembering? Some theorists suggest their knowledge came from a previous high civilization, one that mastered the stars before succumbing to a cataclysm that wiped out nearly all traces of its existence. Others take the speculation further, proposing that humanity was visited by beings from other worlds, teachers who shared fragments of cosmic wisdom before vanishing into myth. Skeptics offer alternative explanations, perhaps patterns in the sky, inspired stories that coincidentally align with modern discoveries. Or maybe these civilizations were extraordinary observers, using methods now forgotten to chart the heavens in ways we can barely imagine. But even these explanations struggle to account for the details, like the Dogon's knowledge of white dwarfs or the Sumerians' apparent awareness of planets that require telescopes to see. As you picture these ancient stargazers, imagine them standing on temple rooftops, watching the night sky with reverence. They did not merely see stars. They saw a living cosmos, a tapestry of meaning and mystery. To them, the heavens were not just distant lights, but guides, teachers, and perhaps even gods. If their stories are true, what else might they have known? Could they have understood the nature of black holes, the existence of exoplanets, or the spiral arms of our galaxy? And if they did, what happened to that knowledge? Was it deliberately hidden, preserved only in symbols and myths, waiting for humanity to rediscover it when we were ready? Perhaps the greatest question is not how they knew, but why we so quickly forget. We think of ourselves as the pinnacle of human achievement, yet time and again we uncover evidence that those who came before us saw deeper and farther than we imagined. As you drift into thought, imagine the Dogon elders, gathered under the African stars, telling stories of the Namo, amphibious beings from Sirius who descended in shining ships to teach their ancestors. Imagine Sumerian priests tracing the paths of planets in cuneiform, their clay tablets recording secrets that would vanish for thousands of years. Imagine Hindu astronomers meditating on the movements of celestial bodies, seeing in them the rhythms of a universe alive with purpose. And now imagine this. What if all of their stories are pieces of a puzzle, fragments of a truth so vast and so deep that even now we are only beginning to glimpse its edges? Perhaps the stars themselves are not the mystery. Perhaps the real mystery is how, in the deep past, someone or something taught humanity to look up and remember. Secret 7. At the bottom of the Aegean Sea, in the silent embrace of the deep, a mystery lay hidden for over 2,000 years. It was not a golden statue or a jeweled crown, but something far more extraordinary, a corroded lump of bronze and wood, unrecognizable at first glance, yet destined to rewrite our understanding of the ancient world. This artifact, now known as the Antikythera mechanism, suggests that the people of the past possessed technology centuries, perhaps even millennia, ahead of their time. The story begins in 1901, when sponge divers exploring the waters near the Greek island of Antikythera stumbled upon the wreck of a Roman cargo ship. Among the statues, amphorae, and treasures scattered across the seafloor was a small, encrusted object, ignored at first as little more than debris. But when archaeologists began to clean it, they discovered gears so precisely cut, so intricately arranged, that they should not have existed in the ancient world. The Antikythera mechanism is often called the world's first computer, and for good reason. Its complex system of bronze gears could predict the motions of the sun, moon, and planets with astonishing accuracy. It tracked eclipses, charted lunar phases, and even accounted for the irregularities in the moon's orbit. Turning a small crank would set its gears in motion, allowing ancient astronomers to model celestial cycles years into the future. How could such a device exist in a time when most people still believed the Earth was the center of the universe? The mechanism dates to around 100 BCE, yet its engineering sophistication rivals that of clockwork mechanisms not seen again until the 14th century, 1,400 years later. Historians had assumed such precision engineering was beyond the reach of ancient artisans. The Antikythera mechanism proves they were wrong. But this revelation raises unsettling questions. If such technology existed in antiquity, why did it vanish? Why do we find no other devices like it? No surviving manuals or records of its creation? Was the Antikythera mechanism a unique masterpiece, the work of a lone genius? Or was it part of a broader tradition of advanced craftsmanship, most of which has been lost to time? Some scholars suggest the mechanism is evidence of a forgotten golden age of science and engineering, a period when ancient civilizations achieved heights we have yet to fully comprehend. They imagine workshops where gears and levers hummed, where mathematicians and inventors designed machines far more advanced than we ever imagined. If so, what happened to that knowledge? Was it destroyed in war, lost in fire, or deliberately hidden away, never meant for later generations to rediscover? Others take the mystery further, asking whether the mechanism's existence hints at outside influence. Could travelers from another place, another culture, or even another world have shared fragments of their technology with ancient peoples? To the Greeks, such visitors might have seemed like gods, their machines indistinguishable from magic. The Antikythera mechanism is not the only anomaly of its kind. Ancient texts speak of wondrous devices. Archimedes' supposed death ray, Heron's steam engine, even accounts of automata, self-moving statues, and mechanical birds that sang. Were these mere curiosities or glimpses of a deeper knowledge long since buried? As you imagine the mechanism in your mind, see it not as a corroded relic, but as it once was, gleaming bronze gears turning smoothly, delicate inscriptions marking celestial cycles, the soft whir of ancient engineering alive in the hands of its creator. Picture the moment it was placed aboard that ill-fated ship, perhaps bound for a scholar or a temple, its secrets meant to be shared with the world, but instead consigned to the deep for 2,000 years. Today, the Antikythera mechanism rests in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, encased in glass, studied with X-rays and 3D models. Yet for all our modern technology, we still cannot say with certainty who built it or why. It remains a whisper from the past, a reminder that human history is not as simple as we like to believe. Perhaps the greatest secret of the mechanism is not its design, but what it reveals about us. It shows how easily knowledge can be lost, how fragile progress truly is. It asks us to imagine what else might have slipped through the cracks of history, waiting to be found beneath the waves, beneath the sands, or in the faded pages of forgotten texts. And as you close your eyes, imagine turning that ancient crank yourself, feeling the gears engage, the universe unfolding before you in bronze and light. Perhaps in that quiet moment, you too will sense the truth the ancients once knew, that time does not move forward as we imagine, but circles endlessly, carrying with it secrets we are only just beginning to remember. Secret 8. All across the earth, ancient stone structures rise from the ground like silent sentinels, their weathered faces turned skyward, as if longing for something beyond this world. These monuments, stone circles, pyramids, temples, were built thousands of years ago by hands long turned to dust. And yet, they share a strange and haunting commonality. From Stonehenge to the Great Pyramids of Giza, from the Nazca Lines to the temples of Angkor Wat, these structures align not just with the rhythms of the sun and moon, but with distant stars, stars so far away that even today they appear as little more than faint pinpricks of light in the night sky. Why would ancient builders go to such extraordinary lengths to orient their monuments with celestial bodies? And more importantly, how did they do it? Without telescopes or modern instruments, how could they chart the heavens with such precision? These questions have lingered like shadows over our understanding of history, pointing to a possibility too unsettling to ignore. Perhaps these ancient peoples knew far more about the cosmos than we have ever imagined. Consider the Great Pyramid of Giza. For centuries, it has captivated the world with its size and mathematical precision. But there is another secret hidden in its stones. The pyramid is aligned almost perfectly to true north, within a fraction of a degree. Modern engineers struggle to replicate such accuracy, even with advanced tools. Yet the pyramid's builders achieved it over 4,500 years ago. Even stranger, some researchers suggest that the three pyramids of Giza mirror the layout of Orion's belt, the three bright stars that form part of the Orion constellation. From this perspective, the pyramids are not just tombs. They are a map etched in stone, a reflection of the heavens on earth. Stonehenge, too, seems to encode celestial knowledge. This ancient circle of massive stones, erected in England around 5,000 years ago, aligns with the summer and winter solstices. At dawn on the longest day of the year, the sun rises precisely over the heel stone, casting a shaft of light into the heart of the circle. But Stonehenge also has lunar alignments, and some researchers argue its design incorporates knowledge of the 18.6-year lunar cycle, a feat that would require generations of careful observation. Far across the ocean, in Peru, the Nazca lines stretch across the desert floor, giant geoglyphs depicting animals, plants, and geometric shapes. Some lines run arrow straight for miles, pointing directly to solstice sunrise points or the positions of certain stars. The Nazca people lacked airplanes or satellites, yet their designs are so vast they can only be fully appreciated from the sky. Were they signaling to the heavens, or charting the paths of celestial bodies for reasons we have yet to comprehend? In Cambodia, the temples of Angkor Wat align with the constellation Draco during the spring equinox, while in Mexico, the Pyramid of El Castillo at Chichen Itza creates a shadow serpent that slithers down its steps on the equinox, an astronomical and architectural marvel. From Machu Picchu to the ancient observatories of Chaco Canyon in North America, the same theme recurs: humanity's ancient ancestors building monuments that reach for the stars. But how? And why? One possibility is that these alignments were practical, helping ancient people track seasons, predict floods, and plan harvests. But this explanation feels incomplete. Aligning a massive stone monument to the solstice is one thing. Mapping entire constellations in stone is something else entirely. Some theorists suggest these structures were ceremonial sites, designed to bring humanity into harmony with the cosmos. Others take it further, proposing that they were messages to beings in the sky, or markers left by such beings for us to find. Could it be that these alignments are not mere coincidence, but evidence of a lost science? Perhaps ancient civilizations possessed knowledge of astronomy, geometry, and engineering that was forgotten in the tides of history. Or perhaps their understanding came from elsewhere, imparted by visitors who descended from the heavens and left behind subtle reminders of their presence. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to stand beside one of these monuments at night. The stars wheel overhead, distant and cold, yet somehow connected to the stones beneath your feet. You run your hand across weathered rock, sensing the weight of centuries. The people who built this place are long gone, but their intention remains, etched into the alignment of earth and sky. They wanted to remember. Or perhaps they wanted us to remember. As modern astronomers peer deeper into space, they discover new worlds orbiting distant suns, planets that may, one day, harbor life. But what if the ancients already knew? What if they looked at Orion, Draco, and Sirius not as mere patterns of light, but as signposts, markers pointing to places they once came from, or to which they hope to return? Perhaps that is the ultimate purpose of these monuments, to remind us that we are part of something larger than ourselves, to whisper across the gulf of time that the sky is not a ceiling but a doorway, and that we have always been drawn to step through it. And as you close your eyes, imagine the earth spinning slowly beneath you, stars moving in graceful arcs above. Somewhere in the darkness, a stone circle, a pyramid, or a temple waits, its alignments unchanged for thousands of years. The stones are still, the stars are still, but in the silence between them, you sense a message left for those willing to listen. Look up and remember. Secret 9. The ocean is a vast, unbroken mystery. It stretches endlessly toward the horizon, calm on the surface, but hiding depths darker and older than any forest, any desert, any mountain on earth. For as long as people have gazed across its waves, they have spoken of worlds beneath them. Entire cities swallowed whole, their streets now silent, their towers crumbled under the crushing weight of water. No modern map records these places, yet their memory lingers in stories, whispered like secrets by those who wonder what lies below. Consider the legend of Atlantis, the most famous of all lost cities. Plato wrote of it over 2,000 years ago, describing a vast island beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. He spoke of gleaming temples, canals that shimmered under the sun, and a people whose knowledge and power rivaled the gods. One day, in a single night of fire and flood, Atlantis disappeared into the sea. Was Plato recounting a myth or preserving a memory passed down from a time before history began? Atlantis is only the beginning. In the Bay of Cambay off the coast of India, sonar scans have revealed geometric patterns and stone structures beneath the waves, patterns that suggest roads, walls, and buildings. If these are man-made, they would date back more than 9,000 years, to a time when, according to conventional history, civilization was barely beginning. The sea may have claimed this city long before humans learned to write, leaving behind only the faintest memory in the ancient Vedic texts that speak of lost lands. Off the coast of Japan, divers discovered the Yonaguni Monument, a massive submerged structure with terraces, pillars, and stair-like formations. Skeptics argue it is a natural formation, but others see the work of deliberate hands. A city drowned when the last ice age melted and the seas rose. In Egypt, near the mouth of the Nile, the ancient city of Heracleion lay hidden beneath the waters for over 1,000 years before it was rediscovered in 2000. Divers found colossal statues, inscriptions, and vast temple complexes preserved in the silt. It is a reminder that even cities we know of can vanish entirely, their existence erased from maps and memory. But what of the cities no one remembers? Legends across the world speak of them. The Welsh tell of Cantre'r Gwelyd, a sunken kingdom beneath Cardigan Bay, its church bells still heard ringing from the depths on quiet nights. In the Baltic Sea, fishermen whisper of Vineta, a city of shining spires that sank for its arrogance and greed. Polynesian myths speak of Hawaii, a homeland now lost beneath the Pacific waves. Could there be truth in these tales? Geologists know the Earth's coastlines have changed dramatically over millennia. When the Ice Age ended, melting glaciers caused the seas to rise by hundreds of feet, flooding vast tracts of land. Whole islands and shorelines vanished beneath the waves, taking with them the villages, towns, and cities of people who once walked there. But how advanced were these people? Were they simple hunter-gatherers, or did they build civilizations far older and more complex than we imagine? Some believe these sunken cities were cradles of knowledge, places where humanity's first astronomers, engineers, and philosophers lived before their world was destroyed. Perhaps the myths of gods and heroes are echoes of those who survived, carrying fragments of a lost age into the future. Others suggest a more unsettling possibility, that these cities were not lost by accident, but by design. Could there have been forces, natural or otherwise, that sought to erase them, leaving no trace for future generations? Perhaps the ocean itself is not just a passive grave, but an active keeper of secrets. Imagine standing on the shore thousands of years ago, watching as the waters rise inch by inch, swallowing fields and forests. You see towers crumble, temples disappear, and the lights of your city extinguished one by one. Generations later, all that remains is the memory, a story told around fires, a warning encoded in myth: beware the sea, for it hungers. Today, we send submarines and robots to explore the ocean's depths. But even now, more than 80% of the seafloor remains unmapped. What lies in those dark places, beyond the reach of our lights? Are there streets still standing in the abyss, mosaics intact on silent floors, statues staring upward as if waiting to be found? Perhaps that is the greatest secret of all. Not that these cities exist, but that they are not yet ready to reveal themselves. The ocean is patient, and it has had thousands of years to hide its treasures. As you close your eyes, imagine diving into the deep. The water grows colder, darker, until at last you see it, a stone archway covered in coral, leading to avenues of silent ruins. You swim past crumbling columns, broken statues, and doorways that open into eternal darkness. And in that stillness, you feel it, not fear, but a sense of recognition, as if some part of you has been here before. Perhaps in another time, you walked those streets. Perhaps we all did. Secret 10. Leonardo da Vinci's mind was a universe unto itself, restless, curious, and filled with ideas that seemed to spill out faster than even he could contain them. His notebooks were his companions, thousands of pages filled with sketches, inventions, and thoughts that leapt centuries ahead of their time. He drew machines that could fly, weapons never before imagined, and anatomical studies of stunning precision. Yet for all we have preserved, there is something unsettling about his legacy. Not everything survived. Some pages are missing, perhaps by accident, or perhaps by design. The Codex Leicester, the Codex Atlanticus, and countless other fragments of his writings have been found scattered across Europe, passed from one hand to another over centuries. Together, they form a tapestry of genius, but the tapestry is incomplete. Scholars estimate that up to half of Leonardo's notes are gone, lost, hidden, or destroyed. What might have been written on those vanished pages? What secrets did Leonardo discover that humanity was not yet ready to see? Da Vinci's notebooks were not ordinary journals. They were alive with invention. He sketched designs for helicopters, submarines, and even a kind of mechanical calculator, machines that would not be built for hundreds of years. He studied the human body in ways that rival modern medical imaging. He mapped rivers, dissected flowers, and explored geometry and light as if he were unraveling the language of the universe itself. If this is what we can see in the surviving pages, what knowledge lies in the ones that are missing? Some historians suggest the missing pages were simply lost over time, consumed by fire, decay, or negligence. After all, Leonardo's notes were not kept in a single volume, but scattered in loose sheets and bound codices. But others whisper of more deliberate erasure. Could some of his discoveries have been considered too dangerous to preserve? Perhaps they revealed truths about nature, technology, or even humanity's place in the cosmos that threatened the powerful institutions of his day. In the 16th century, Europe was a land of tension, where church and science often clashed. Da Vinci lived in a delicate balance between these worlds. He served popes, kings, and generals, always aware that his ideas could be used for creation or destruction. What if he discovered something so transformative or so terrifying that he chose to keep it hidden? Or what if others, upon reading his notes, decided humanity was not ready and removed the offending pages? There are tantalizing clues. Some codices contain references to works that no longer exist. In one passage, Leonardo writes of an earlier treatise on flight, yet no such manuscript has been found. In another, he alludes to experiments with energy and light that seem almost modern in their scope. Could these missing writings hold the blueprints for technologies centuries ahead of his time, or knowledge that might have reshaped the course of history? Even more intriguing are the rumors of secret societies seeking to protect or control Leonardo's legacy. For centuries, his notebooks passed through the hands of collectors, some of whom were members of powerful and shadowy organizations. Did these guardians decide that some knowledge should remain veiled? Or are the missing pages still out there, hidden in a private library or secret archive, waiting for the right moment or the right mind to rediscover them? Imagine what we might find if they surfaced tomorrow. Detailed designs for perpetual motion machines? Evidence of forces and energies modern science has yet to understand. Or perhaps even warnings, messages from a man who saw too far, urging us to tread carefully as we unlock the secrets of the universe. As you picture Leonardo hunched over his desk, quill scratching across parchment, imagine the weight he must have felt. His mind was centuries ahead of his world, and he seemed to know it. Did he fear what others might do with his discoveries? Did he tear out pages with his own hands, burning them in the quiet of the night? Or did he entrust them to someone, hoping they would be revealed only when humanity was ready? Today, the surviving notebooks are preserved behind glass, studied with reverence, their faded ink a testament to one of the greatest minds that ever lived. Yet as you gaze at them, you cannot help but feel the absences, the invisible spaces where words and sketches once were. Perhaps the greatest secret of Leonardo's missing pages is not what they contained, but why they disappeared. Some knowledge changes the world, other knowledge changes us. And maybe, just maybe, Leonardo understood the difference. As you drift deeper into thought, imagine turning the pages of a lost codex, the ink still sharp, the paper faintly smelling of smoke and oil. You see strange machines, cryptic formulas and drawings that seem to pulse with meaning. The pages whisper to you, not in words but in possibilities. And in that moment, you realize the truth. Some secrets are not lost. They are waiting. Secret 11. Stone remembers what people forget. Across the world, in caves, temples, and monuments, ancient hands carved their visions into rock. Records meant to outlast fire, flood, and the rise and fall of empires. Many of these carvings are familiar. Deer hunted with spears, kings seated on thrones, gods wielding lightning in the heavens. But some carvings do not fit. They depict creatures no one alive at the time could have seen and machines that should not have existed. For centuries, these anomalies have whispered of a past stranger than we dare imagine. Deep in the jungles of Cambodia, the Temple of Ta Prohm stands wrapped in the roots of banyan trees. Its walls are a tapestry of intricate carvings, many showing animals sacred to the Khmer people. But nestled among them is an image that defies explanation, a creature with a frilled neck, thick legs, and a long tail. It looks uncannily like a stegosaurus, a dinosaur that went extinct 65 million years before humans walked the earth. Is this coincidence? An abstract design misinterpreted by modern eyes? Or is it a fragment of memory, handed down from a time when ancient people saw creatures they should never have seen? In Egypt's Temple of Seti I at Abydos, carvings on a stone beam show shapes that have sparked decades of debate. Among them are figures that look strikingly like modern machines, a helicopter, a submarine, and even a jet plane. Skeptics argue these are palimpsests, the result of overlapping hieroglyphics eroded by time. Yet the resemblance is unsettling. If they are not coincidences, then what inspired these carvings thousands of years before the Wright brothers ever took to the skies? Half a world away, in the caves of Altamira and Lascaux, prehistoric artists painted animals with breathtaking realism: bison, horses, and deer. But among the familiar, there are occasional oddities. Creatures with elongated heads, strange eyes, and appendages no known species possessed. Were these artistic flourishes, dream visions, or glimpses of animals now lost to time? Then there are the Vimanas of ancient India. In the Sanskrit epics, these flying chariots carried gods and warriors across the skies. Texts like the Mahabharata describe aerial battles and machines that could soar like a bird or unleash fire powerful enough to destroy cities. Are these stories pure mythology, or do they preserve a memory of technologies long since forgotten? Some ancient carvings in Indian temples seem to show conical flying machines, wheels spinning as flames erupt beneath them. The Dagu figurines of Japan, dating back 5,000 years, add to the mystery. These clay statues often feature humanoid figures with large, goggle-like eyes and strange, helmeted heads. To modern viewers, they look eerily similar to astronauts in bulky suits. What inspired these designs in a Neolithic culture with no knowledge of space travel? Even the Americas hold their share of enigmas. In Nazca, Peru, alongside the famous lines etched into the desert floor, pottery shards have been found depicting humanoid figures with oddly large heads and round, unblinking eyes. Some researchers see echoes of modern alien imagery. Others argue these were ritual masks or symbolic representations. But the mystery remains. Why did so many ancient cultures create images of beings and machines so unlike anything in their known world? Perhaps these carvings are evidence of a hidden chapter in human history, a time when our ancestors witnessed technologies and creatures we can no longer comprehend. Were they visited by travelers from distant lands, or even distant stars? Did survivors of a lost civilization pass through their villages, leaving behind only tantalizing glimpses of once was? Or is the explanation stranger still? Could these be memories from earlier cycles of humanity, visions preserved in stone from a time before a great cataclysm reset civilization to zero? Some scientists speculate that humanity may have risen and fallen more than once, each era leaving faint fingerprints on the next. Imagine an ancient carver sitting cross-legged in the dust, chisel in hand. Perhaps he saw something he could not explain, a creature or machine so wondrous that he felt compelled to etch it into stone. He does not understand its origin or purpose, but he knows it must not be forgotten. Thousands of years later, we stand before his work, trying to read a message meant for a mind long gone. But perhaps these carvings are not meant to be understood. Perhaps they are reminders that we are not the first to walk this earth and will not be the last. As you close your eyes, picture these ancient stones in their prime, brightly painted, alive with color, the carvings fresh and sharp. Now imagine the carver looking up from his work, staring at the sky as something vast and silent passes overhead. He returns to his chisel, determined to preserve the memory for those who will come after. And in that moment, you feel it, the weight of forgotten worlds pressing in around you. Perhaps these images are not echoes of myth, but fragments of truth humanity was never meant to know. Secret 12. The desert is a place of silence, where time seems to stop and the wind whispers secrets across endless dunes. To most, it is a barren wasteland, an ocean of sand and stone where nothing lives for long. But for those who look deeper, the desert is a library. Hidden beneath its shifting sands may lie scrolls and manuscripts, records of humanity's forgotten origins, stories too dangerous or too powerful to survive in the open world. Throughout history, deserts have preserved what the world sought to erase. It was in the caves of Qumran, near the Dead Sea, that shepherds stumbled upon the Dead Sea Scrolls, ancient texts hidden for 2,000 years. They revealed lost chapters of spiritual thought, forgotten histories, and alternate versions of stories we thought we knew. If such scrolls could survive unnoticed for millennia, how many more might still sleep beneath the sand? Legends from Egypt speak of the fabled Hall of Records, a secret chamber said to be buried near the Sphinx, holding scrolls that detail the true history of humanity. Ancient writings describe this hall as containing knowledge from a time before the pharaohs, a time when gods, or perhaps beings mistaken for gods, walked the earth. Archaeologists have searched for it in vain, yet whispers persist that it lies just beyond our reach, sealed away until humanity is ready to confront its past. Farther east, in the deserts of Arabia, travelers have long spoken of Iram of the Pillars, a city mentioned in the Quran as a place of great knowledge and wealth, destroyed by a sandstorm and buried forever. Could its libraries, if they still exist beneath the dunes, hold scrolls that reveal a civilization far older than recorded history? Even the Sahara, which was once a lush green savanna, may conceal secrets beneath its parched surface. Satellite images have revealed faint traces of ancient riverbeds and structures buried under layers of sand. Some researchers believe this hints at lost settlements, perhaps entire cities, whose scrolls and records remain intact, waiting for the day the desert releases them. But what might these scrolls contain? Perhaps accounts of humanity's true origins, not the gradual, linear rise we imagine, but cycles of rise and fall, civilizations that rose to unimaginable heights before being swept away like cataclysm. Some ancient texts already hint at this. The Sumerian king list describes rulers who reigned for tens of thousands of years, a timeline dismissed by modern historians, but preserved faithfully in cuneiform tablets. Could scrolls hidden in the deserts fill in these gaps and tell us who those rulers really were? There are those who believe the deserts were chosen deliberately as vaults for such knowledge. In their stillness and dryness, they preserve fragile parchment and papyrus better than any other environment. Perhaps ancient sages foresaw a time when their civilizations would crumble, and they hid their wisdom where only the most determined seekers could find it. Or perhaps others, those who came from elsewhere, sealed these scrolls away, ensuring that humanity would not rediscover its past too soon. Imagine walking across a vast, sun-baked plain. The wind kicks up, and for a moment, you catch sight of something strange in the sand. A fragment of parchment, its ink faint but legible. You brush away the grains and find symbols you've never seen before, a language that feels both alien and familiar. As you unroll the scroll, you realize it is telling a story, not of kings or empires, but of a time before time, when the earth was young and humanity's first spark was lit by hands unknown. Perhaps that is why these scrolls have remained hidden. To read them would not merely change history, it would change us. The stories we tell about who we are, where we came from, and where we are going would all unravel. Some say the scrolls will remain hidden until we are ready for the truth. Others fear that once they are found, their knowledge will not be used for wisdom, but for power. Today, explorers and archaeologists continue to scan deserts with ground-penetrating radar, hoping for a signal, a void beneath the surface where a lost library might wait. But the sands are patient. They have kept their secrets for thousands of years, and they may keep them for thousands more. As you close your eyes, imagine the desert at night, cool and quiet under a sky bursting with stars. Beneath your feet lies a chamber untouched since it was sealed. Inside are scrolls wrapped in linen, ink still vibrant after millennia. You cannot read the words, but you feel their weight, the sense that within them lies not just history, but memory, our memory. Perhaps these scrolls are not truly lost. Perhaps they are waiting for the right moment, the right hands, and the right heart to bring them back into the light. Secret 13. Scattered across the earth are temples and monuments so grand, so enduring, that they seem almost beyond the reach of time. Their stones are weathered by centuries, yet they stand firm, defying earthquakes, storms, and the relentless march of history. But look closer, and you will find an even deeper mystery. Many of these structures were built with stones so massive, so impossibly heavy, that even with modern cranes and engineering, we would struggle to move them today. How did ancient builders, without engines, steel cables, or advanced machinery, lift, transport, and place stones weighing hundreds, even thousands of tons? In the mountains of Lebanon lies the ancient city of Baalbek. Its temple complex, dedicated to Jupiter, is one of the largest and most impressive of the Roman world. But the true marvel is not the temples themselves, it is the stones they rest upon. At the base of the Temple of Jupiter are 3 massive blocks known as the Trilithon, each weighing an estimated 800 tons. Nearby, in a quarry, lies the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, an unfinished monolith weighing over 1,000 tons. Even today, with our most powerful equipment, moving such stones intact would be a monumental challenge. How then did people nearly 2,000 years ago accomplish this feat? The Great Pyramid of Giza presents a similar enigma. Some of its limestone and granite blocks weigh as much as 80 tons. They were transported from quarries miles away, then lifted and set with precision, so fine that even a sheet of paper cannot fit between them. Egyptologists suggest ingenious ramps and levers were used, but the logistics of such methods on this scale remain largely theoretical. At Sacsayhuaman in Peru, high above the city of Cusco, colossal stone walls snake across the landscape. Some stones weigh over 200 tons and are shaped with such exactness that they interlock without mortar. The joints are so tight and irregular that they resist even the blade of a knife. Local legends say the walls were built by giants or shaped by softening the stone with unknown techniques. Modern engineers still puzzle over how these stones were quarried, moved, and set into place on steep terrain. Then there are the mysterious stone spheres of Costa Rica, the perfectly balanced pillars of Ellora Caves in India, and the massive columns of the Trilithon Gate at Hattusa, capital of the Hittite Empire. Across cultures and continents, the same questions echo. How did ancient builders achieve such feats of strength and precision without modern tools? Some propose that these civilizations developed technologies that have since been lost. Advanced cranes, counterweights, or even techniques for manipulating gravity or sound. Others suggest the possibility of outside intervention, knowledge shared by visitors from distant lands or even distant worlds. To the people of the time, such beings would have seemed like gods, their machines like magic. But there is another possibility, quieter and more haunting. What if humanity itself has risen and fallen in cycles, each time reaching heights of knowledge before being reset by cataclysm? Perhaps the secrets of lifting and shaping these stones were known long ago, then forgotten as the sands of time buried both tools and memories. Imagine standing at Baalbek as the Trilithon blocks are set in place. There is no roar of engines, no clang of metal. Instead, you see teams of workers, or perhaps a few solitary figures, guiding the stones as if they weigh nothing at all. How are they doing it? You cannot tell. It feels as though you are watching something not meant to be understood. What if these stones were not just building materials, but messages? Markers left behind for future generations to ponder, to remind us that not everything can be explained away by the tools and logic we know. Today, we marvel at skyscrapers and suspension bridges, proud of our achievements. Yet in these ancient sites, there lingers a quiet warning. Progress is fragile, and knowledge is not always permanent. The builders of Baalbek, Sacsayhuaman, and Giza may have once thought their techniques would never be forgotten. But time is a patient thief. As you close your eyes, picture those immense stones in the moonlight. The air is still. The stars turn overhead, unchanged since the first chisel struck rock. Somewhere in the silence, you sense a presence, the echo of hands long gone, leaving behind a question that has no answer. How? Perhaps the stones themselves are speaking. Perhaps they are saying, "We knew something you have forgotten." Secret 14. In 1947, in a barren stretch of desert near the Dead Sea, a shepherd stumbled upon a cave. Inside were clay jars, and in those jars lay scrolls, ancient parchment, brittle but intact, inked with words that had not been read for nearly 2,000 years. These were the Dead Sea Scrolls, and their discovery would become one of the greatest archaeological revelations of the modern age. But even as scholars celebrated their contents, lost biblical texts, apocryphal writings, and insights into life during the Second Temple period, whispers began to spread of something more. Some of the scrolls, it was said, contained teachings never meant for public eyes. What were these teachings? Why were they hidden? And what might happen if they were revealed? The Dead Sea Scrolls are a vast collection, over 900 documents found in 11 caves near Qumran. They include fragments of nearly every book of the Hebrew Bible, but also writings that do not appear in any canon, visions of angels and demons, strange prophecies, and instructions for secret rituals. Among these, some texts stand out, texts that suggest knowledge was deliberately withheld from the masses, reserved for an elite few deemed ready to receive it. One such text is the Community Rule, which describes a strict hierarchy within a sect of Jewish mystics. Members were divided into levels of purity and knowledge, with only the highest initiates allowed access to the group's deepest secrets. These chosen ones studied hidden wisdom, knowledge too powerful or sacred for ordinary people to possess. What was this wisdom? The scroll does not say directly, but hints abound. Visions of heavenly realms, the workings of creation, and the destiny of the soul after death. Then there is the Book of Secrets, or Sod, a fragmentary text that speaks of mysteries of light and hidden paths of the stars. It describes a knowledge passed down from angels to humans, guarded carefully because of its potential to disrupt the balance of the world. To modern readers, this language is poetic, symbolic. But what if it is more than metaphor? What if the authors were recording a real, though now forgotten, science? Some believe the scrolls conceal instructions for unlocking latent abilities within the human mind, powers of perception and intuition we have long since lost. Others suspect they hold forbidden teachings about the origins of humanity, truths that challenge the narratives of both religion and science. And then there are the rumors surrounding the scrolls themselves. After their discovery, the texts were initially shared among a small group of scholars. For decades, access was limited. Critics accused religious authorities and governments of suppressing certain scrolls that might contain controversial revelations about the life of Jesus, the nature of God, or even contact with beings beyond the earth. In 1991, after years of secrecy, the scrolls were finally made available to the wider academic community. But some still wonder, were all of them released? Or were the most dangerous texts quietly hidden away? What if the missing pieces hold instructions for technologies long forgotten, blueprints for energy sources or healing methods far beyond our current understanding? Or what if they contain warnings, accounts of ancient cataclysms meant to prevent history from repeating itself? Imagine a hidden chamber beneath the sands, filled with scrolls not yet unearthed. The parchment crumbles as a hand unrolls it, revealing symbols and words unlike any we know. The reader stares in wonder and fear. Do they dare speak of what they've found? Or do they return the scroll to the shadows, knowing the world is not ready? Perhaps the greatest mystery of the Dead Sea Scrolls is not what they say, but what they don't. Gaps in the text, torn fragments, words smudged and erased. Were these accidents of time or acts of intention? Did the authors or their guardians choose to obscure truths too immense to survive the light of day? As you drift deeper into thought, picture the caves of Qumran at dusk, the sun casting long shadows over the rocks. A solitary figure descends into the darkness, carrying a scroll wrapped in cloth. He places it carefully in a jar, sealing it for a future he cannot imagine. The air is cool and still. Outside, the desert winds whisper, carrying secrets no one else will hear for 2,000 years. Perhaps those secrets are still waiting, not only in caves or archives, but within us. Perhaps the true teachings were never meant to be written on parchment at all, but inscribed in the human soul, waiting for the moment we are ready to awaken. Secret 15. All across the world, in lands separated by oceans and mountains, there are stories of water, endless, rising water that swept away entire worlds. These tales are not confined to one culture, one continent, or one age. They come from the deserts of Mesopotamia, the rainforests of South America, the icy plateaus of Tibet, and the islands of the Pacific. Ancient people spoke of a great flood long before written history began. And though separated by time and space, their voices echo the same warning. The world was not always as it is now. In Mesopotamia, one of humanity's earliest cradles of civilization, the Epic of Gilgamesh speaks of Utnapishtim, a man warned by the gods of a coming deluge. He builds a great boat to save his family, animals, and the seeds of life. This story, carved in cuneiform on clay tablets over 4,000 years ago, is strikingly similar to the later biblical account of Noah's Ark. But it is not unique. In India, the ancient Sanskrit texts tell of Manu, a wise man who was warned by a talking fish of a coming flood that would destroy all life. Manu built a boat and tied it to the fish's horn, surviving the rising waters that drowned the world. In Greece, Deucalion and Pyrrha survived a flood sent by Zeus to punish humanity, later repopulating the earth by casting stones over their shoulders. The Ojibwe people of North America speak of a flood that covered the earth, after which a muskrat dived to retrieve soil from the depths, giving rise to the land once again. In China, ancient stories tell of a hero named Yu who tamed the floodwaters and reshaped the land. The Muisca of Colombia, the Yoruba of West Africa, and the Aboriginal peoples of Australia all preserve similar accounts in their oral traditions. What is remarkable is not just the universality of these stories, but their persistence. Long before these cultures had contact, long before they shared languages or trade routes, they were already telling the same story. A world consumed by water, a handful of survivors, and the rebirth of life from the brink of extinction. Could these tales be more than myth? Geologists know that at the end of the last ice age, around 12,000 years ago, the Earth's climate changed dramatically. Glaciers melted, seas rose by hundreds of feet, and vast stretches of coastal land were swallowed forever. Is it possible that early human civilizations settled along those fertile coasts, witnessed their worlds vanish beneath the waves? The Black Sea deluge hypothesis suggests that a massive influx of water from the Mediterranean flooded the Black Sea basin, wiping out Neolithic settlements and sending survivors fleeing inland. Could this event, and others like it, have imprinted themselves so deeply on human memory that they became universal myth? Or is there another layer to the story? Some researchers believe that these flood narratives contain hidden knowledge, warnings encoded in metaphor. Were ancient storytellers trying to preserve memories of celestial events, asteroid impacts, or even the cyclical destruction of advanced civilizations? Perhaps the flood is not just water, but a symbol of how fragile human progress can be in the face of nature's power. Others wonder whether the flood myths are fragments of something even older, a legacy from a forgotten age. Could there have been a civilization that existed before the ones we know, wiped away by a disaster so complete it erased all but the faintest echoes in myth? If so, what knowledge was lost when their cities sank beneath the sea? Imagine standing on the shore of that ancient world. You feel the ground tremble. The wind carries a strange, salty chill. On the horizon, a wall of water rises impossibly high, advancing with a roar like 1,000 storms. There is no time to run, no chance to prepare. In moments, everything you have known, your home, your people, your history, is gone. As you drift deeper into thought, picture the survivors, small bands of men and women carrying their memories into new lands. Around fires, they tell their children of the world before the flood, of the day the earth itself turned against them. Those children grow, and their children after them, and the story is told again and again until it becomes a myth, a sacred tale, and finally a riddle. Perhaps these flood stories are not warnings of the past, but of the future. They remind us that the earth changes, and change comes swiftly. They whisper to us, this has happened before. It can happen again. Or perhaps, in some way we do not yet understand, they are simply truths too deep for time to erase. Secret 16. Beneath the surface of the earth, hidden from the light of day, lie corridors carved into stone, tunnels so old and so extensive that their origins are shrouded in mystery. They stretch for miles, sometimes across entire regions, weaving like veins beneath fields, mountains, and villages. In some places, they are barely wide enough for a human to crawl through. In others, they open into vast chambers large enough to house entire communities. No one alive knows who built them or why. In Europe alone, thousands of these tunnels have been discovered. From Scotland to Turkey, archaeologists have uncovered narrow passageways that seem to connect settlements separated by vast distances. In Germany and Austria, the locals call them Erdstuhl, earth stables. Most are only a few feet high, forcing anyone who enters to stoop or crawl. They twist and turn with no apparent logic, their walls smooth, as though shaped by patient, deliberate hands. But there are no signs of fire or chisels, no inscriptions to reveal who carved them or when. In Turkey, beneath the town of Derinkuyu, lies an underground city that defies comprehension. Discovered in 1963, when a man knocked down a basement wall in his home, the complex descends 18 stories into the earth. It contains living quarters, kitchens, wells, ventilation shafts, and even chapels. Enough space to shelter up to 20,000 people. Archaeologists believe it was built thousands of years ago, but they cannot agree on how or by whom. Even more baffling are the massive stone doors that roll into place to seal passages, mechanisms so precise they seem out of place in an age without modern engineering. Why would ancient people go to such extraordinary lengths to carve entire worlds beneath the earth? Some historians suggest these tunnels were used for refuge during times of war or invasion. Others believe they served as storage spaces or ritual pathways for initiates of ancient mysteries. But these explanations feel incomplete. Why make tunnels so extensive, so complex, and so secretive? Why build them in places where no evidence of large-scale conflict exists? In South America, too, there are whispers of vast underground networks. The Incas spoke of tunnels beneath Cusco that extended for miles, some said to reach all the way to distant fortresses. In Ecuador, explorers in the 20th century claimed to have discovered an immense labyrinth filled with smooth, polished walls and strange metal artifacts. Their claims remain controversial, but the rumors persist. Could it be that these tunnels are remnants of a forgotten chapter in human history? Perhaps they were built by a civilization advanced enough to master the art of subterranean construction, a culture erased by cataclysm. Or perhaps they were not built by humans at all. Ancient myths speak of people of the earth, beings who lived below the surface, emerging only rarely to interact with those above. Were these tales born of imagination, or distant memories of encounters with someone or something else? Even today, modern technology struggles to map these tunnels in their entirety. Ground-penetrating radar reveals voids and passageways beneath landscapes we thought we understood, but many remain too dangerous or too remote to explore. For every tunnel uncovered, there are countless others hidden, their entrances collapsed or concealed by time. Imagine standing at the mouth of one such tunnel. The air is cool and heavy, carrying a faint scent of stone and earth. As you step inside, the daylight fades, replaced by darkness so complete it feels alive. Your footsteps echo softly along the narrow corridor, and you wonder, who walked here before you? What were they fleeing or seeking? Perhaps these tunnels were not merely functional. Perhaps they were symbolic, pathways between worlds, thresholds into realms of spirit or memory. Some ancient cultures believed the underworld was not a place of punishment, but a sacred space of transformation. Could these tunnels have been gateways, designed to lead travelers not just through the earth, but into themselves? Or perhaps they were built for protection, not from war or predators, but from something greater: cataclysm, flood, fire from the sky. Humanity has endured such disasters before, and survivors often speak of a time when their ancestors hid in the earth until the surface was safe again. As you close your eyes, picture the tunnels as they once were, not empty and silent, but alive with the flicker of torches, the murmur of voices, the sound of stone tools tapping softly in the dark. Somewhere deep below, perhaps untouched for thousands of years, lies a chamber no one has yet entered. Inside may rest the answers to questions we are only now learning to ask. Perhaps these tunnels were not meant to last forever. Perhaps they were carved in stone as a message, a reminder for those who would one day walk above. We are here, and renew something you have forgotten. Secret 17. High in the Andes Mountains, where clouds cling to jagged peaks and the air feels thin and ancient, the ruins of the Inca Empire remain, silent, steadfast, and enigmatic. Their walls have stood for centuries, resisting earthquakes, storms, and even the passage of time itself. But there is something about these stones that goes beyond mere durability. The Inca built walls so precise, with blocks so perfectly shaped and fitted, that even today, no blade, not even a single sheet of paper, can slip between them. In the heart of Cusco, the former capital of the Inca Empire, these walls line narrow streets like guardians of a forgotten age. The stones are massive, some weighing more than 100 tons, yet they fit together without mortar, as though they were grown rather than carved. The edges meet in perfect harmony, their surfaces polished smooth. To stand before them is to feel a sense of awe and a haunting question. How did the Inca achieve such impossible precision? The most famous example is the 12-angled stone, a single block of andesite in Cusco's Hatun Rumiak Street. Its edges are cut into 12 intricate angles, allowing it to interlock flawlessly with its neighbors. The craftsmanship is so fine that even after centuries of earthquakes and upheaval, the stones remain tightly bound, unmoved while modern masonry crumbles around them. Archaeologists propose that the Inca used simple tools, stone hammers, chisels, and a technique of repeatedly rubbing and adjusting stones until they fit. But many wonder if that explanation is enough. How could a civilization without iron tools or wheels manipulate stones of such immense size and achieve tolerances so tight that even modern engineers struggle to replicate them? At Sacsayhuaman, a fortress above Cusco, the stones grow larger still. Some are as tall as a 2-story building, yet they are fitted together in irregular patterns, like pieces of a massive jigsaw puzzle. These polygonal designs are not random. They are intentional, allowing the walls to absorb seismic shocks and flex during earthquakes. While entire cities elsewhere were reduced to rubble, Sacsayhuaman's walls remained. Could the Inca have known something about engineering that we have since forgotten? Or is there another explanation? Some theorists propose that they possessed advanced techniques for softening stone, using plant-based compounds or sound vibrations to make the rock malleable. Others wonder if they inherited knowledge from a much older civilization, one whose existence has been erased from the pages of history. Legends passed down through the Andes speak of Viracochas, bearded gods who arrived in the distant past, teaching the ancestors of the Inca how to build and shape the world. Were these stories poetic metaphors or hazy memories of real teachers whose origins remain unknown? What is perhaps most remarkable is the artistry of the Inca walls. These were not merely functional structures. They were works of beauty, with stones arranged in flowing, organic shapes, their surfaces curved as though responding to the contours of the earth itself. It is as if the builders sought not to dominate the landscape, but to harmonize with it, creating something alive. Imagine walking through the streets of Cusco centuries ago, your hands brushing against cool stone walls. You marvel at how each block seems to breathe, how they lock together without a seam. You ask a stonemason how it's done, and he only smiles, as though the knowledge is not meant to be spoken aloud. Perhaps that is the true secret of Inca stonework. It is not merely about tools or techniques, but a way of seeing the world, an understanding of materials, earth, and energy that modern minds have yet to recover. As you close your eyes, picture those walls at night, their shadows deep and silent beneath a star-filled sky. The air is still, yet the stones seem alive, as though they remember the hands that shaped them and the voices that once echoed through these streets. Perhaps the stones are more than construction. Perhaps they are messages, silent but enduring, waiting for those who are ready to listen. Secret 18. There is a peculiar feeling that comes from looking at a map, especially an ancient one. It's the sense of seeing the world not as we walk it, step by step, but as a whole, from far above, as though we were soaring in the sky. Today, satellites and aircraft give us that godlike perspective. But what if we were not the first to possess it? What if long before modern technology, lost civilizations had already mapped the Earth from the heavens. Among the most intriguing clues is the Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral. At first glance, it seems unremarkable, a medieval chart of known coasts. But look closer, and unsettling details emerge. The map appears to show parts of South America's eastern coastline with astonishing accuracy, centuries before European explorers had charted it. Even more striking is its depiction of Antarctica, not as the icy wasteland we know today, but as an ice-free landmass, suggesting knowledge of a time long before the continent froze over. How could a 16th century mapmaker possess such information? Piri Reis himself claimed he copied his chart from far older maps he described as ancient and mysterious. Were these relics of an unknown culture that once saw the world from above? The Nazca lines in Peru offer another tantalizing hint. Etched into the desert floor over 1,500 years ago, these enormous geoglyphs form intricate patterns and figures. Spiders, hummingbirds, and monkeys, some stretching for hundreds of feet. From the ground, their scale is impossible to comprehend. Only from the air do the designs reveal their full shape. How and why would a culture create such vast artworks without ever seeing them in their entirety? Did they somehow possess the means to rise above the earth? Even in Europe, traces of a forgotten perspective remain. The Portolan charts of the 13th and 14th centuries depict coastlines and harbors with a precision that should have been impossible in their time. These maps were far more accurate than anything produced before, as though their makers had access to surveys conducted from high above. Some suggest these anomalies are evidence of a lost seafaring culture, perhaps an advanced civilization predating known history, wiped out by cataclysm. Others propose a stranger theory, that in the deep past, humans or visitors possessed flight. Ancient texts from many cultures speak of winged chariots, flying palaces, and fiery wheels descending from the sky. Were these only myths or faint memories of real machines? In India's ancient Vedas, the Vimanas are described as flying vehicles capable of traversing the heavens. In Central America, legends of the Mayan god Kukulkan tell of a serpent who could rise into the air, gliding across the land. And in Mesopotamia, the gods of the Anunnaki are said to have descended from above, bringing knowledge and order to the earth. Could these stories hint at a time when the sky was not an unreachable realm, but a highway for those who came before us? If so, what maps might they have drawn, not just of continents and oceans, but of the stars, the planets, and paths between them? Imagine standing in an ancient workshop. Before you is a parchment stretched over a wooden frame. Hands, rough from years of labor, trace coastlines with delicate ink strokes. Yet these hands did not chart the world by ship or caravan. They saw it from above, as eagles or gods might see it. What secrets are encoded in their work? Secrets passed down in fragments, misunderstood, and finally forgotten. Perhaps these maps were never meant to survive. Perhaps they were deliberately hidden, their knowledge considered too dangerous for later generations. Or perhaps they remain, tucked away in some forgotten archive, waiting for a moment when humanity is ready to understand them. As you close your eyes, picture yourself lifting gently above the earth. Forests and rivers merge into patterns. Mountains become wrinkles on the skin of the world. You are seeing what only the ancients saw, a view they may have captured in ink and parchment, leaving behind a riddle for those of us still grounded. Maybe the greatest secret of these ancient maps is not how they were made, but why. Did they simply chart the world, or did they mark the way home, for them or for us? Secret 19. For centuries, we've been told that the world's great civilizations grew in isolation. The pyramids of Egypt rose with no knowledge of the stepped temples of Central America. Chinese artisans never spoke to Mayan astronomers, and African kings never met Polynesian navigators. Oceans were thought to be barriers too vast to cross. Yet scattered across the earth, there are artifacts, small, silent clues that whisper of a different story. They suggest that long before Columbus, long before Magellan, human beings may have journeyed across continents and oceans, leaving behind traces of contact thousands of years earlier than history admits. In Mexico, a figurine was unearthed that seemed out of place. It bore the likeness of a man with a distinctly African face. Skeptics dismissed it as coincidence or modern contamination. But then there were more carvings, pottery, and sculptures that hinted at features unfamiliar to the Americas. Were these the artistic imaginings of local craftsmen? Or could they be echoes of visitors from distant shores? In 1999, in Honduras, archaeologists discovered a tiny statuette of a man resembling a Buddhist monk. Its features and posture mirrored those found in temples across Asia. The find was controversial and widely debated, but it raised a question too important to ignore. Could ancient Asian sailors have reached the Americas long before recorded history? And then there is the cocaine mummy. In the 1990s, scientists studying Egyptian mummies found traces of nicotine and cocaine in their hair and tissues. These substances at the time were believed to grow only in the Americas before Columbus. How then could they have ended up in the bodies of ancient Egyptians? Did traders cross the Atlantic millennia before European explorers? Or does this evidence point to an even deeper mystery, one of forgotten global networks that spanned the earth in prehistory? In India's ancient Sanskrit texts, there are stories of merchants who sailed vast oceans, following star roads to reach foreign lands. Polynesian navigators memorized the night sky, ocean currents, and bird migrations to explore the Pacific, long before maps existed. Could others have mastered such skills and crossed seas thought impossible to traverse? Off the coast of Japan, beneath the waves of Yonaguni, lie massive stone structures with terraces and pillars. Some suggest they were carved by human hands during the last ice age, at a time when sea levels were lower. If true, it could point to a seafaring culture that vanished before history began. In South America, depictions of reed boats in ancient artwork resemble those still used on Lake Titicaca. Strikingly similar boats were crafted in Egypt, leading explorers like Thor Heyerdahl to sail replicas across oceans, proving such journeys were possible even with primitive technology. If these artifacts and connections are real, they rewrite everything we know about our ancestors. They suggest a world where knowledge and culture flowed not just within continents, but across them. Perhaps humanity was never as isolated as we imagine. Perhaps the oceans were not barriers, but highways, and the people of the past were far more adventurous than we give them credit for. Or could it be that these artifacts hint at something even stranger? Some theorists suggest the existence of a lost global civilization, an ancient network that spread its influence before being wiped away by cataclysm. Others speculate about visitors from the stars, teaching navigation to fledgling cultures and leaving their marks in art and myth. Imagine a Phoenician ship, its wooden hull creaking as it rides the swells of an unknown ocean. Stars gleam above, strange birds wheel in the sky, and ahead, a dark line appears on the horizon, land unknown to any map. The sailors step ashore, leaving behind a trinket, a carving, a story. Centuries later, that story becomes a myth, the artifact a curiosity, and the journey itself is forgotten. Perhaps these clues remain because they were meant to. Perhaps they are reminders, calling us to look deeper, to question the neat lines of history we've drawn for ourselves. As you close your eyes, picture the earth from above, not as a patchwork of disconnected continents, but as one vast, living world, its peoples reaching for one another across waves and winds. Somewhere out there, buried beneath jungles, deserts, and oceans, more artifacts wait to be found. Tiny whispers of an age when humanity's story was more interconnected, more mysterious than we have ever imagined. Secret 20. All around the world, colossal monuments rise from the earth like echoes of another age, silent witnesses to the genius of people long gone. From the great pyramids of Giza to the stone giants of Easter Island, from the temples of Angkor, Wat to the megaliths of Stonehenge, these structures have stood for centuries, defying time, weather, and even the limits of human imagination. But as we marvel at their grandeur, one question lingers. How were they built? Modern engineers can speculate, archaeologists can theorize, but no one can say with certainty how ancient builders lifted stones, weighing hundreds of tons, aligned monuments perfectly with stars, or carved intricate designs with tools that seem too primitive for the task. The techniques, the rituals, and perhaps even the purpose behind these creations have all been lost. It is as though the builders took their secrets with them when they vanished, leaving behind only the stones to puzzle those who came after. In Egypt, the Great Pyramid contains over 2 million limestone blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons. Its sides are aligned with astonishing precision to the cardinal points, and its base deviates from perfect level by less than an inch. How did workers in an age without cranes or lasers achieve such accuracy? Theories abound, ranging from simple ramps to elaborate counterweights, but no definitive evidence has ever been found. On Easter Island, the Rapa Nui carved massive statues, called moai, from volcanic rock and transported them miles across rough terrain. Some of these statues weigh over 80 tons, yet legends say they walked to their resting places. Was this poetic metaphor, or a hint at techniques we no longer understand? At Pumapunku in Bolivia, high in the Andes, megalithic stones lie scattered across the plateau. Some are cut with such precision that their edges are as sharp as modern machine work. The largest blocks weigh over 100 tons, yet they were transported from quarries miles away. Local oral traditions claim the stones were shaped in a single night by gods or giants. Could this be an attempt to describe knowledge so alien to later generations that it seemed supernatural? Perhaps the greatest mystery is not the physical construction, but the mindset of the builders. Why did they devote generations of effort to these projects? What drove them to align temples with the solstices, carve staircases into mountainsides, or arrange stones in patterns visible only from the sky? Were these monuments practical, ceremonial, or something else entirely? Markers of knowledge we can no longer read. Some researchers suggest that the knowledge of the ancients was passed down through oral traditions, ritual chants, songs, and apprenticeships. But oral knowledge is fragile. It can be broken by war, famine, or natural disaster. Once forgotten, it rarely returns. Could it be that humanity has already lost countless sciences, arts, and techniques, not through malice, but through the simple erosion of memory over time? There are those who wonder whether this loss was deliberate. In the ruins of ancient libraries, the Library of Alexandria, the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, are stories of knowledge burned, stolen, or suppressed. What if some secrets of construction were among them? Or what if the builders themselves chose to conceal their methods, fearing they would be misused by later generations? Imagine walking through one of these monuments as it was in its prime. The stones gleam in the sun, artisans labor in perfect rhythm, and the air hums with an energy you cannot name. You ask a master builder how it is done, but he only smiles. The knowledge is not written, not spoken. It lives in their hands, in their eyes, in the wisdom of their people. And when they are gone, it goes with them. Perhaps that is why these monuments feel so alive. They are not just stone and mortar. They are memories made solid. They are the only voices left of civilizations whose thoughts and dreams no longer speak in words. As you close your eyes, imagine these monuments not as puzzles to be solved, but as messages. The builders may be gone, but their creations endure, whispering across time. We knew something you have forgotten. And maybe, just maybe, you can remember. Secret 21. In the dry desert plains of southern Peru, strange shapes stretch across the earth's geometric patterns, winding lines, and giant figures etched into the ground. They are known as the Nazca lines, and they are so vast that from the ground they seem like nothing more than shallow grooves in the sand. Only from high above does their true form reveal itself. A hummingbird, a monkey, a spider, a heron, and hundreds of straight lines crisscrossing the desert floor like an ancient blueprint. The Nazca lines were created over 1,500 years ago by a culture that left no written records of its thoughts or intentions. The designs are made by removing the top layer of reddish pebbles to expose the pale earth beneath, forming a striking contrast visible for miles. But this raises a haunting question. Why would an ancient people, with no known means of flight, create artworks so massive they could only be fully appreciated from the sky? Theories abound, but none offer a complete answer. Some believe the lines were ritual pathways, walked by priests in sacred ceremonies meant to invoke rain or fertility. Others suggest they were astronomical calendars, aligning with the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. Yet others propose they were messages, not to humans, but to gods or beings above, carved into the earth like enormous signposts. Could the Nazca have possessed a perspective we no longer understand? Perhaps they climbed nearby hills to gain a higher vantage point. But even then, the scale of the designs suggests a level of planning and surveying that defies what we know of their technology. Modern archaeologists using drones and satellites continue to discover new figures, including one of a strange humanoid with enormous eyes, dubbed the astronaut. What inspired these images? Were they purely symbolic or based on something the Nazca people actually witnessed? Some researchers point to similarities between the Nazca lines and ancient stories from other cultures. In Mesoamerica, legends speak of gods descending from the sky in fiery chariots. In India's Vedas, tales of flying vimanas appear. Could the Nazca lines have been landing strips, as some theorists suggest, or markers to guide visitors from above? Others propose a more grounded explanation. Perhaps these geoglyphs were never meant to be seen at all, but were ritual offerings, expressions of devotion, made not for human eyes, but for the divine. In a culture where the gods were believed to reside in the heavens, carving immense figures into the desert could have been an act of faith, a way to ensure the gods could see them from above. Yet there is still something deeply unsettling about the precision and scale of these designs. The straight lines run for miles, crossing hills and valleys without deviation, as though plotted with an invisible hand. The figures are perfectly proportioned, even though their makers could never have seen them in their entirety. Imagine standing in the Nazca Desert centuries ago, watching as teams of workers carefully scrape away the surface stones. The sun beats down, and the wind whispers across the plain. You ask what they are doing, and one of them answers softly, "So they can see us?" Who are they? Today, planes fly over the Nazca lines, carrying tourists and researchers who gaze down in wonder. But the original audience may never have been human. Perhaps the lines were messages meant to endure, not written in paper or stone, but carved into the very skin of the earth, so vast they could survive centuries of silence. As you close your eyes, imagine drifting above the desert at dusk, the figures glowing faintly in the dying light. The hummingbird spreads its wings, the spider stretches its legs, and the long, straight lines converge toward the horizon, as though pointing to something far beyond our sight. Perhaps the greatest mystery of the Nazca lines is not how they were made, but why they continue to call to us across time, across distance, whispering that the earth holds memories we are only beginning to remember.